My name is Emma. I'm the Director of Consulting Services at Wellingtone, and with me I have my colleague Paco.
Hello, everyone. I'm Paco or Francisco, and I'm Senior Consultant at Wellingtone.
So today we're going to be talking about the human first side of OKRs, objectives and key results. For those of you that are new to our Wellingtone events, we run these 2 or 3 every single month, completely free, just to kind of get our community together to learn, share and grow across different topics. So we are Wellingtone. Wellingtone is a project management consultancy firm. We have our head office here in Windsor in the UK. We have an office in Spain, in Madrid, which is where Paco is, and we have an office in Dublin as well. And our mission is to enable our clients to make a step change in their project management maturity and to increase their capability. In fact, we guarantee it. Part of that is this community. The Wellingtone Future PMO community is all about bringing those topics and creating a safe space for people to continue to learn, share and grow after they've maybe implemented technology, or they've done some training, or they've attended one of our events. Today, we're going to be talking about objectives and key results, and more specifically, the human side of that, which are the CFRs. So we're going to discover what OKRs and CFRs are. We're going to understand the different elements that make up the CFRs, learn how to implement them into the day-to-day, and we're going to also give you some hints and tips on how to talk to your colleagues about this topic, because there is a lot of confusion already, and it can seem a bit confusing when we're starting to bring this kind of conversation into the organisation. So I'm going to hand you over to Paco now, who's going to explain a little bit about what the OKRs and CFRs are and the different elements that make them up. Paco, over to you.
Thank you very much, Emma. So yes, maybe it's useful to provide a bit of a context for you that are new on the topic. So the first question would be, what is OKR? So we have already talked in other articles or webinar, but the OKR stand for Objective and Key Results. This is a agile framework for goal settings. It works for individual, and it works also for team level, and works for organizational level. So in the OKRs, the first element is the objective. That is what we want to achieve, or a strategic goal. Then we have the second level, that is the key result. That is the key result. And this is the metric about how do we know that we are achieved our objective. That is the key results. And then we have the third level, that is the project or initiative. And then this to help, we run projects to help to reach the outcome, the desired outcome. So typically we set up 3 to 5 objectives per quarter with 3 to 5 key results, the metrics, and then we run through a cycle. This is an iterative cycle, and we review at the end, and then maybe we modify the objective or the metric or whatever. But saying that, this is not enough for successful implementation. Only following the processes and techniques of the OKRs. So we need to implement also the CFR. CFR is the communication system. It's the way we are going to help the individuals navigate through the OKRs. We can say, as Emma said, that is the human side of the OKR. A breakdown of each element of the CFR. So the first of all, so we can say, as we say, it's a communication system. So it's a two-way communication system, from a manager to individual, but also from individual to manager. And the first of this element is the conversation. Conversation is this one-to-one conversation between the manager and the individual. And here we are going to focus on the OKR progress. How you are progressing on your OKRs. Do you need some help or maybe some blockage? We can provide also some advice. This is the conversation. It's about progress. Then we have also the other element, the F, the feedback. And here we can consider this like a coaching. So in the feedback, we can provide the training, and we can provide advice for the individual, and to change, for example, to change or modify the performance. So, but we address this like coaching. And then the last one, the R, is the recognition. Here, this sometimes is forgotten to do this, but it is because maybe we are focused on the day-to-day problems or keep the things moving forward. But this is the really important part. This recognition is the acknowledgement and the recognition for the appreciation for the small and also the big wins. And it's very important to keep the personal, to keep the individual motivated and fit the belonging needs. So seeing these three elements, now we can see some tips about that, about how to implement CFRs. So CFR is the communication system for the OKR. So the first thing we need to is to ensure that it is happening. And how we can do this? So, well, we can do this by, for example, addressing this frequently. We can address some meetings. We are not talking about the team meetings, that this is part of the normal cycle in OKRs. We are talking about the individual meeting to understand how everything is progressing and provide this feedback and also this recognition. So the first thing is to set up this meeting. So you can think, oh no, more meetings could be bureaucratic. Yes, but we can, some tips that we can provide is keep it short, schedule in advance, maybe 15 minutes once a month in each quarterly cycle. So it's very short and concise. So it will be helping the individual. It will be getting feedback and recognition. So at the end of the day, will be welcome. So it's not progressing or giving status or a status report. Is more about help, about progress. So this is the first tip. So, and then, for conversation, for example, would be listen actively, provide the feedback also, frequent feedback, actionable, focus on the performance and not in the individual itself, and recognize and acknowledge frequently these quick and small wins. Do not wait, for example, until a performance review or maybe closure at the end. So give it also this recognition frequently. And if we do that, I mean, if we combine OKRs, the goal setting methodology, with the CFR, this way of to communicate, then we can provide, we can help the organization to have this more open, honest, and continuous improvement environment. So for CFR, for example, it's not need also to do in a particular order. It's more to think about an approach for the communication and using as a guide to help the individuals and to get the right balance of information. Be open to the conversations, provide the feedback, and also provide recognitions.
Thank you, Paco. So those of you that know Wellingtone, we always have to put a PMO spin on things. So if you're working within a PMO, there are also things that you can do to implement the CFRs. It isn't just for, as Paco said, you can work it at lots of different levels at departmental level. One of those could be the PMO. In terms of implementing that kind of conversation, communication, feedback, and recognition, there are some things that we can do generally to kind of help bring that conversation. So first of all, using our health checks and stage gates as points of reference. So, you know, at least review that at each point, because we're not necessarily line managing, we're not necessarily owning the OKRs, the objectives and key results, but we are touching base with these people, and particularly if we are also affecting change in the way that people are working. Again, schedule meetings in advance, don't make it a surprise, and be clear on the reason for a meeting, you know, that it's not an audit, it's not us being the process police, it's very much that human element that we actually need for PMOs to be seen as good leaders of the project management practice. In terms of the conversations, again, one-on-one conversations help to build relationship and create the trust that is needed to realize the full potential. And those conversations need to be led by active listening, as Paco said. Listen to the person and focus more on that than the output of the project itself. It is about trying to generate that objective key result, that impact from the individual's perspective as much as the outcome of the project. Feedback, so making sure that it's specific and it's actionable, and focus on what's going to add value, what's going to add impact to that final objective. And then from a recognition perspective, share the small successes within the wider portfolio. We're not very good at this in PMOs. We tend to focus very much on what went wrong, and we don't really tend to focus on what's gone well. So, you know, if somebody has managed to achieve something within their project outcomes, if we have managed to hit one of those key results, then make sure that we share them wider than we would typically do, and use our community of practice to do that. If, as Paco said, if it's combined correctly, then CFRs and OKRs really create an effective continuous performance improvement system that takes into account both the qualitative stuff, the stuff that we know we can measure really, really easily, as well as the qualitative stuff, which is more around the humans. Now, one of the challenges that people seem to get is how to kind of talk about all of this. This is a relatively new thing for lots of organizations. So how do we actually talk about this to our colleagues? You know, chances are you're not here with your entire team. And one of the comparisons that gets made a lot is around OKRs and benefits realization. Now here we have kind of a bit of a side-to-side comparison. And if we think about benefits realization, we're really focused on those long-term gains that, you know, 12, 18 months after the project is finished, you know, let's come together and see how we did. And because of the nature of it, and because it is quite hard to think of the qualitative, we do find that most organizations doing benefits realization tend to focus more on the quantitative results. So it takes quite a broad view of benefits. It's not always super focused because, you know, we're trying to get to that bottom line number or that growth in terms of efficiency or whatever it might be. And it will happen for a long time, potentially after the project ends. It's quite rare for us to see the benefits straight away on go live day. Because of that, and because it takes a long time, and because it is focused on that wider goal, quite often 12 or 18 months later, we have to almost re-educate our owners of those benefits as to, remember that project that happened, you know, 18 months ago, this is what we actually achieved. So there's a little bit of re-education that comes with it. And so we tend to find that actually it's so long into the future that we kind of, the so what? Okay, so we didn't hit the benefit, but the project happened ages ago, it's a new financial year, so it doesn't really mean anything. If we compare that to objectives and key results, and this is something that should complement your benefits realization, it's not necessarily a one or the other situation, but objectives and key results allow us to focus on that long term, so still looking for that long-term gain, but through small iterations. So Paco mentioned, you know, maybe we look at things from a quarterly perspective. That allows us to pivot. If things aren't going quite right, if we're not achieving the outcome that we desired, it actually allows us on that example quarterly basis to say, okay, let's tweak that, let's look at something else, you know, maybe something has emerged that can help us and guide us to get to that end goal. And with the CFRs, that conversation, that feedback, that recognition, it helps us to look at the qualitative stuff, taking that human first approach. So really focusing in on the people that we are impacting, not just the process that we might be impacting. And OKRs actually start during the project. So that's, again, quite rare that we see. Benefits is always kind of considered as, you know, the project team build it, they decide how we're going to measure it, and then they hand it off for, you know, post-project work. But OKRs, we can actually start during the project, and they can still continue after the project ends for as long as it takes for us to hit that outcome. What it does also do, though, is it keeps our owners and our users focused on what we're trying to achieve, because we're having that conversation regularly, one-to-one. It's, as Paco said, maybe monthly, and on a wider scale, maybe we're looking at that on a quarterly basis. So it really is, and it's built on the concept of continuous improvement. And that really is a culture change. And we know that that takes time. We know that that's difficult to do. But this hopefully helps you to kind of look at the things, benefits realization and OKRs on a side-by-side, because one of the key questions that we get are, well, what's the difference? Why should I choose one over the other? And actually, it's important that the OKRs is actually a tool to help us to deliver benefits and that objective, those key results that lead us to that fundamentally that beneficial outcome for our organization. So it's not an us and them situation. It's very much one should complement the other, and hopefully this gives you a bit of a view on how to have that conversation. In terms of what to do next, so our webinars are designed to be short and sweet, so get a short, sharp piece of information, and then you can follow up if you are interested in kind of taking the conversation to the next level. Now, next week, we have our next event in OKR month, as we've called February, and that is with Joel Belshaw from Admiral. He spoke about this topic in benefits realization at our conference last year, Future PMO, and we're going to be doing a Q&A. So if you register for that event, you'll get a link to give us your experiences and questions that you can ask the panel, which will include Joel, Paco and myself. So do join us. That is an hour, it is a networking event, therefore it's not recorded. So it's very much about you being present and being able to really tackle those, ask the difficult questions, I guess you could say, and do that in a safe space. Paco mentioned it earlier, we do have lots of articles and insights around OKRs and how they can support our businesses and our PMOs and our teams and our projects. So do log on to wellingtone.co.uk and have a look at the articles that we have. And if you want more information, then again, you always have access to our Dr. PMO clinic. So you can book a half-an-hour slot with myself or with Paco so that you can actually ask more questions, find out more about how does this actually work in practice. And if you haven't already, you're in the community today by joining this webinar. So do join our LinkedIn community, Wellingtone community. It's for all of our Wellingtone friends to kind of get together and learn, share and grow. And the last slide is very much, we always say kind of, keep an eye on what's going on. We're talking lots about this. Everybody's talking lots about this. So keep the conversation going both internally and with Wellingtone. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining at lunchtime. I know you're all extremely busy. Again, do keep the conversation going, both internally within your teams, but also with Wellingtone by joining the community. And hopefully we will see you in our Dr. PMO clinic or at our event next week. Thank you for joining. We'll see you at the next one.
Thank you very much.